Welcome everybody to the Paradise Paradox. So I'd like to present this video. There's a presentation that I did at Anarchapulco 2021. So I had the opportunity to speak thanks to the advocacy of my assistant, Lily Forrester. She was also working for the Anarchapulco team. And it was like every time they come up with a free spot or something like that, she was like, well, why can't Kurt speak? So thanks so much for Lily to helping me out with that. And the speech is about when I got deported from Mexico. So I know not a lot of Australians get deported from Mexico. I met a friend about 10 months ago, my friend Georgia, and she's also from Australia. She's from Melbourne. Well, I started telling her about the experience of being deported from Mexico, and she said to me, you're the guy. So apparently, if you search for things like, how likely is it for an Australian to be deported from Mexico? Then it comes up with, a lot of people say, that's really not likely, even if you overstay your tourist card, it basically never happens. But I do know this one guy, and that's me. I'm that one guy who got deported from Mexico. So you can hear that story. The underlying theme of the speech is about how even when we're kind of playing opposite roles in the life, and maybe we're even in positions where we're supposed to hate one another, we don't actually have to do it. And it's about the value of Mexican hospitality and this kind of thing. So I think you'll really enjoy it. A lot of people there had a great time, and they've invited me to speak again, or they've said that it's likely that they'll invite me. At least it's not fully in the works yet. So please remember to check out my new project. Well, it's been going for almost a year now. It's called A Beautiful Thought. So if you search on Google, Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, I like to use Podcast Addict. You can find it on there. You'll see the little tree logo, and that's how you know you're on the right track. And you can also check out the website, beautifulpodcast.com. So I hope all of you check that out. The concept of the podcast is how your life is already wonderful. So many times there are little things in life which, by noticing them, we can actually improve the quality of our lives. So if we start noticing the wind going through the leaves in the trees, if we start to feel the breeze on our face, the different sensations, the enjoyment of eating a meal, the time we take to pause before we enjoy that meal, to say a prayer or to thank whoever has prepared the meal for us, all of these things can improve our lives really significantly, improve the quality of our lives. And a lot of them don't take a lot of effort. They just take increasing our awareness, our consciousness in this mortal realm. So I invite you to check out the website, beautifulpodcast.com, search for the podcast, and let's get into it.
Let's move on to Kurt David Robinson. Where is he? Is he over there?
Yes.
You have your mic? Okay, great. So Kurt Robinson is best known among Anarchapulco attendees for the hip-hop track To Acapulco. How many of you have heard that? See, that's awesome that almost no one has, because now it's like totally fresh. It's totally fresh to them. It tells the story of ambitious people moving to Acapulco to find freedom, used on the promotional material for the event in 2016. Currently, Kurt asked the question, how is your life already wonderful? Pointing out aspects of life and meditation that can improve your level of happiness just by noticing them. A Beautiful Thought publishes 4 short episodes Monday to Thursday and an interview episode on Fridays. Kurt works as a coach using methods such as cognitive behavioral therapy and neuro-linguistic programming to help people begin to change their beliefs, find greater inner peace, and turn their insights into action. Ladies and gentlemen, Kurt David Robinson.
Ben. Thanks, Ben.
Alright guys, I'm excited to be here. The title of my speech today is Show Them Your Heart. Get back to the start there. So I'd like to talk to you about the power of compassion, and I'd like to share with you some of my experiences. And I find it so amazing how we all have a wealth of experiences within our own lives, and when we reflect on them, we can find so much knowledge and so much wisdom out of the things that we have experienced. Is probably, it's bigger than the internet, bigger than an encyclopedia. It exists within each one of us through journaling and introspection. We can find that kind of knowledge. I'd like to tell you this story that begins in 2013 when I was living in Melbourne, Australia, and listening to a lot of anarchists and reading a lot of libertarian thinkers, listening to Jeff Berwick, the Dollar Vigilante, and reading things from the Mises Institute and Foundation for Economic Education, and all this great stuff. And I was kind of obsessive about this economic frame of thinking and very analytical. I've always been a very analytical person. And due to the influence of Jeff Berwick and others, I started to look at things a little differently. And this is an important lesson. This is an important word called perspicacity. It's an uncommon word in English, but it means the combination of observation. Yep. Oh, there. Thanks, Ben. All right. The combination of observation and discernment, because it's fascinating all the things that we can learn by simply watching our world and trying to put together in our own heads what these experiences mean. So I started to notice in Melbourne, there are a lot of cops. And every year I lived there for about 6 years, more and more police, and it seemed like every excuse that they wanted, say someone gets into a fist fight on King Street, the next weekend there would be extra buses and squad cars and all this stuff. It was a little bit worrying. So of course I thought, I better look for another place to live. So in 2014, I came to Mexico, magical Mexico, and I hope you're all enjoying your time here in Mexico, because this is a fantastic place. It's no joke when they say magical Mexico. So many strange and wonderful things happen here. Living in Guadalajara, beautiful women, beautiful food. It's a great place. I love it. And I was still very much in this obsessive, anarchist, analytical mindset. And I would get into these arguments online. It's like Luis was telling us yesterday about how we start off as angry anarchists. And I would debate people, nonstop, and drill them down by trying to point out the contradictions, asking them these questions that would expose the errors in their thinking, expecting, very unrealistically, that somehow this is going to lead them to the conclusion, and they're going to come and say to me, thank you, Kurt. Thank you for showing me what an idiot I am. Never happens. Almost never happens. What normally happens is they get resistant and defensive and aggressive, and then they get defensive and aggressive at the same time. It must be very uncomfortable for them, but it wasn't very pleasant for them or me. Then I used to post about this on Facebook, and I would kind of mock these people and make posts and portray how other people were thinking, and say, look at this guy. How could somebody believe something that's such a logical contradiction? One day my friend Link posted on one of these posts, and he said, Kurt, why do you do this? Because it seems like it's not a very effective form of activism, anarchy activism. It doesn't seem like you're making a lot of headway. You're not capturing hearts and minds this way. And it doesn't seem to make you very happy. So why do you do this? And I said, thanks, Link. Though it hurt, I feel the pain in my solar plexus, like, ooh, receive a criticism from a dear friend, it hurts. But I also had to recognize the truth in what he was saying. So I said, I would think about that. Around that time, I had this dream, a nocturnal dream. I'm in my hometown waiting for a bus, and the bus comes by, it's rolling past at 60 kilometers per hour, doesn't even slow down, it just keeps going. And in the dream, I call up customer service. I'm like, what is this? How dare you not stop on my bus stop? And then I wake up from the dream and I think, what is going on here? What's going on in my internal world that I want conflict so much that I invent a scenario so I can experience conflict? Then it came to a head when I was still in Guadalajara. I went on a Tinder date, and this lady said to me, we'll do a language exchange. We'll speak some English and some Spanish, and went out with her. And I guess probably my fault, the conversation went to immigration policy. So again, got to bring up the freedom into the conversation. Which is fine, but it depends how you do it. So again, I would drill down and try to point out these contradictions to her. And at some point during the conversation, I looked in her eyes and I could see that she was tearing up. Like, I'd make her so uncomfortable with my behavior that she was almost crying. And I didn't stop. It's the worst thing. I went home and I thought about it. I sent her a message. I said, I apologize for my behavior. Like, that's really not acceptable. And I thought, I don't want to be like this anymore. I want to be something else. So I came to these events, the first 3 Anarchapulcos, and I met some wonderful people, so many wonderful people. Luis over here. Great man. And also my friend, our friend, Sterling Lujan, who came up with this idea, or champions this idea of compassionate anarchy, relational anarchy. And so many times when we're talking about liberty to people, they come up with this objection, and they say, it's so difficult, like, it's a great ideal. It's a great idea to have a free society, but humanity has to be very evolved in order to have something like that, to have mutual respect and responsibility, respect for others' property and persons. There has to be a lot of personal development, societal development at an individual level. And that objection kind of frustrated me. I guess it frustrated me because on some level I knew it was true. So Stolin's thing is, he says that, all right, well, if that's true, then what we can do is take responsibility for that ourselves. We can evolve within ourselves to become better people. And in our interactions, we demonstrate liberty. We demonstrate the highest form of liberty through respect and compassion for others, through even inspiring others. Thanks. Thanks, Kat. So, Stolin's great. I recommend, I think there's still that Facebook group, Compassionate Anarchy on Facebook. And then I also attended a workshop with 2 people very skilled in nonviolent communication, Adam Kokesh and Scott Swain. And they taught these techniques. And this is a basic formula from nonviolent communication. I don't claim to be an expert, but this is more or less how it would go. So observation, feelings, needs, requests. I'll give you an example to try to make this clearer. So say I'm arguing with somebody online, or having a respectful discussion with somebody online, and they start calling me a name, or they become resistant, or I can sense a kind of anger in the words, whatever it is. And I say to them, I must admit, I felt a little upset and frustrated when I saw you called me a latte sipping hippie. And what I really like is to have a conversation with mutual respect, where we can exchange ideas freely, and where we both hopefully are enriched by the conversation. And in the future, I'd ask you, this is a request, my humble request, is that you refrain from the name calling and we stick to the subject, or perhaps even to more pleasant topics. And you might suspect, you know, I'm sure a lot of you argue with people online, you might suspect what would happen is that they'd say, what are you, trying to be nice? What are you, a little bitch? And that happens a lot of the time. But sometimes, and in fact, a lot of the time, people will say to you, actually, you're right. I forgot myself. I forgot my manners. And I would much prefer to have that style of communication that you're talking about. This is quite fascinating because it's like you give somebody an inkling of a model to show them that there is another way to behave, that they can be aware of their own emotions and express them respectfully, and they will follow because they want to be good too. Now, as I mentioned, I stayed in Mexico. I stayed in Mexico without up-to-date papers. I was an undocumented immigrant, and as it happened, in a strange twist of fate, I was taking a bus from Mexico to Guadalajara around 2 a.m. and some immigration officers got on, and they didn't want to bribe, and I didn't know what to tell them. And they took me to an immigration center in Mexico City, in Ixtapalapa, and I got into the immigration center, and I'm trying to joke with the guys who are asking me to sign these papers, and it's all in Spanish. I only understand about half of it, and I say, do I have to sign this? And they say, well, you know, if you want to get into, you know, you want to get to sleep tonight, it's like 3 a.m. And I'm like, do I have to? It's like, yeah, you kind of have to. I'm like, all right, so I signed it. Kurt Robinson, under duress. And they're like, what's this? The other bureaucrat takes it and looks at it and is like, this official, let's call him Jose. Jose comes out and it starts yelling in my face and is like, what do you think? What do you think you're doing? You think we're putting pressure on you? Why can't you just sign it like everybody else? I'm like, oh, okay. I think you are putting pressure on me. Anyway, I got into the dorm. I was worried. I'm like, ooh, this is Mexico City in an immigration center. I don't know what kind of people are going to be in here. And like 3:30 a.m., two Indian gentlemen walk in, Man and Manu, and they say, and in a familiar Indian accent, very familiar to me, having worked in call centers in Australia, and they say to me, listen, you need anything, there's no problem. You need a toothbrush or a blanket or whatever, we'll see what we can do. And just expressing that hospitality, which is fantastic. There's so many points in our lives we might have that doubt that the world is kind, or that people are looking out for us, that we might be at personal risk. And so the moment, that moment of kindness in a certain moment can change a lot for us. And let's see, make the best of it. That's that. Maybe some of you know that song from Abraham Hicks, the beautiful song channeled by an interdimensional being from another planet. Make the best of it is what I did. So I didn't have a positive attitude the entire time. I was there for 9 days in this detention center. And I started to teach the Guatemalans some English, and I started to teach the Indians some Spanish. And I also thought about this question like, well, I don't have a lot here. I'm kind of about to be kicked out of my home in one form or another. My fate is uncertain. My apartment in Guadalajara is uncertain. What can I be grateful for? And something very relevant this year, my breath. It's it's fantastic to be able to breathe freely. And even if they impede your freedom in so many other ways, you still have your breath. You still have so much. Pens were banned in the immigration center, but somebody managed to smuggle me a pen, and I would just look at it, fascinated. Of course, there's so many things that happen in our daily lives. We might take them for granted, but I held it up and I was like, this is freedom. I can explore so many worlds with this. I can reach beyond the stars. I can travel within my mind, within my imagination, using this pen. And many times I still, when I pick up a pen, I look at it with that light. It's an amazing device. So, and what happened? I was starting to get, around the 6th day, started to get a bit depressed. The sky is very gray in Mexico City. And I thought about this. I thought there must be a better way of looking at the situation. Or I thought, some of you might have heard of this technique. It's called dimensional shifting. And I thought, well, what if I could somehow use the power of my mind and shift a little bit into an alternate universe, or shift my perspective so much that it would have ramifications in this universe. I did this meditation for about 20 minutes, and when I got up from the meditation, I thought, okay, this is interesting. This is an idea, the deal of a lifetime, and it was this. The deal was, if I can wait for 3 more days peacefully in this institution, then I will have so much freedom available to me. I'll be able to travel the world and meet my friends, have whatever wealth is left over once I get out from my savings. And all I have to do is, I don't even have to be happy, I just have to be peaceful for 3 days. I was like, okay, great, I'll take that. Take that deal every day of the week. So it's interesting. So much of our experience of life is about how we look at it. Then we got into, well, the 9th day, they're like, all right, it's 11 p.m., let's go to the airport. And we'll get to Mexico City airport, and 2 officials are escorting me to Sydney. All the way to Sydney. They stay there for like 1 night, and then they come back all the way to Mexico City. And as it happens, one of them is Jose, the same immigration officer who got so angry with me when I arrived. And we get to the airport, the other officer is like, hey, come on, I'll buy you something to eat. I'll get you a salad sandwich. And just the kind of thing that makes me proud to be Mexican in whatever sense. The kind of Mexican hospitality that made me want to come here in the first place. Because I guess on paper we could say that we're enemies, an immigration officer and a deportee, but they didn't see it like that. They just saw someone to offer kindness. Anyway, we got into Narita in Japan. There's a 12-hour layover. And I'm sitting there eating Japanese curry with Jose. And once again, bring the story around. The conversation turns to immigration policy, something intimately relevant to both of us. And he says to me, look, Kurt, what do you think is going to happen? We have these 300 Central Americans, Hondurans, Guatemalans, and Salvadorians. They come into this immigration center every couple of days. A lot of them, they're like loaded up in trucks, squished in like sardines, heading towards the US border. Many of them, I guess you probably don't know La Bestia. La Bestia is a train line that runs all the way from Central America to the United States. And many people ride on top of the beast in order to arrive in the United States and put themselves at great personal risk, the risk of human trafficking, and so many other things, just falling off is one of them. So Jose says to me, what do you think is going to happen? Like all these Central Americans, they get up to the United States, a lot of them can't speak English, a lot of them don't have any skills. What's even gonna happen to them? Why would they even do that? I said, Jose, well, I know a lot of them actually do speak English because I taught them myself. But also, a lot of them do have skills. They're bricklayers and other types of people in the trade. And that's kind of beside the point. Because these people, putting themselves at great personal risk in order to get up there to the United States. And they're demonstrating some of the finest qualities of mankind. This bravery, this ambition to try to improve the quality of their lives and of their families. In a just world, these people would not be punished for their actions. They would be rewarded. They wouldn't be looked down upon. They would be respected. And Jose looked at me and kind of nodded his head. We got into Sydney, and I guess it didn't occur to me at the time. I could have just walked away from the immigration officers and left them to their devices, not speaking English in Australia. But I didn't. It's not Mexican hospitality. It's important. So I showed them around. I helped them change some US dollars into Australian dollars and showed them how to use the metro system. When we got to the platform, one of the stations, I shook one of the officers' hands, and I shook Jose's hand, and he leaned in for a hug. So two people that should be enemies have found this mutual respect, this humanity. Now, my point is this. I don't know if we'll ever reach a free society. I don't know what's going to happen in the future. I like to think we could. But I know that if we show each other compassion, if we feel happiness, and we express it, that is a success. I'd like to invite you to check out my podcast where I've interviewed many people telling their stories and trying to find the wisdom of their stories. It's called A Beautiful Thought. You can check it out on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or the website there, beautifulpodcast.com. Thank you so much.